Welcome back to the continuation of Maldoror, the first canto, part 3. I have made a pact with prostitution so as to sow chaos among families. I remember the night preceding this dangerous liaison. Before me I saw a tomb. I heard a glowworm huge as a house say to me, "I shall enlighten you. Read the inscription, the supreme command comes not from me." A vast blood-red light, at the sight of which my jaw shattered and my arms fell limp, spread throughout the air to the horizon. Feeling I would fall, I leaned against a ruined wall and read, "Here lies a youth who died of consumption. You know why. Do not pray for him. Many men would not perhaps have had as much courage as I." Meanwhile, a beautiful woman, naked, came and laid down at my feet. I sat face to her. "You may rise." I held out to her that hand with which the fratricide slits his sister's throat. The glowworm to me, "You take a stone and kill her." "Why?" I asked him. He to me, "Beware, you are the weaker, for I am the stronger. This woman's name is prostitution." Tears in my eyes, rage in my heart. I felt an unknown strength born within me. I grasped a great rock and after many attempts raised it with difficulty, chest high. My arms got it to one shoulder. I clambered to the top of a mountain, and from there I crushed the glowworm. Its head sank underground to the depths of a man. The boulder rebounded as high as 6 churches and toppled back into a lake whose water subsided in a moment, swirling, howling out of an immense inverted cone. Calm returned to the surface. The sanguine glow shone no more. "Alas! Alas!" screamed the beautiful naked woman. "What have you done?" I to her, "I prefer you to him because I pity the unfortunate. No fault of yours if eternal justice created you." She to me, "One day men will do me justice. I'll tell you nothing more. Let me leave so I can go conceal my infinite sorrow at the bottom of the sea. Only you and the loathsome monster seething in those black abysses. Do not despise me. You are good. Farewell, you who loved me." I to her, "Farewell, again farewell. I shall always love you. From today I abandon virtue. That is why, O earth people, when you hear the winter wind howl on the sea and near its shores, or over the great towns which have long worn mourning for me, or across cold polar regions, you must say, 'It is not the spirit of God passing, only the piercing sigh of prostitution united with the heavy groans of the Montevidean.' Children, it is I who tell you this. So kneel down, filled with pity, and may men more numerous than lice say lengthy prayers." By moonlight near the sea, in isolated country places, one sees, when sunk in bitter reflection, all things assume yellowish shapes, imprecise and fantastic. Trees shadow, now swift, now slow. Race, chase, return in diverse forms, flatten themselves and stick close to the ground. In days gone by, born on the wings of youth, this made me dream. Seems strange to me. Now I'm used to it. The wind groans its languorous tones through the leaves, and the owl intones his deep lament, which makes the hair of those who hear stand on end. Then dogs, driven wild, snap their chains and escape from far-off farms. They run hither and thither through the countryside in throes of madness. Suddenly they stop, stare in every direction with a fierce unease, their eyes ablaze, and as elephants in the desert look up one last time at the sky before dying, desperately lifting their trunks, leaving their ears lay back, so the dogs lay back their ears, lifting their heads, puff out their awful neck, and begin to bark in turn. Sometimes like a child crying from hunger, or like a cat with a wounded belly on top of a roof, or a woman in labor, or a plague victim dying in hospital, or a young girl singing a sublime refrain. They howl at the northern stars, the eastern stars, the southern stars, and the stars in the west, at the moon, at mountains that resemble at a distance gigantic rocks looming from the darkness, at the cold air they inhale in deep lungfuls that inflames and reddens the insides of their nostrils, at the silence of the night, at owls bearing rats or frogs in their beaks, sweet live food for fledglings, whose oblique flights grazes the dogs' muzzles, at hares that vanish at the wink of an eye, at the highwayman who gallops off on his horse after committing a crime, at snakes rustling in the heather, making the dog's flesh creep and their teeth grind together, at their unbarking, by which they scare themselves, at toads which they crunch with the crack of the jaw. Why have they strayed far from the swamp? At trees whose leaves softly swayed are so many mysteries they do not understand and want to seek out with their steady, intelligent eyes. At spiders suspended between their own long legs who scuttle up trees to escape. At crows that have found nothing to eat all day and return to the perch with weary wings. At the rocks on the shores, at the navigation lights to be seen on the masts of invisible vessels, at the dull sounds of the waves, at the great fish which while swimming shows their black backs then sinks into the depths, and at man who makes them slaves. After which they resume their racing across the countryside, bounding with bleeding paws over ditches, paths, fields, grasses, and steep rocks. One would think them rabbits seeking some vast pond in which to stake their thirst. Their continuing howls terrify nature. Beware the tardy traveler. The frequenters of cemeteries will hurl themselves upon him, ripping, devouring him with bloody, dripping jaws. The dog's teeth are not carious. Wild animals not daring draw near to partake of this feast of flesh flee from sight, quaking. After several hours, the dogs, worn out, rushing to and fro, half dead, tongues rolling from their mouths, spring at each other, not knowing what they do, and with incredible rapidity rip themselves into 1,000 shreds. They do not act thus out of cruelty. One day my mother, glassy-eyed, said to me, "Whenever you're in bed and hear the dogs howling in the fields, hide under the bedclothes. Do not deride what they do. They thirst insatiably for the infinite, like you, me, and the rest of us humans with our long, pale faces. I even allow you to stand at the window and gaze upon this quite exalted spectacle." Since that time I have respected the dead woman's wish. Like the dogs, I too feel the longing for the infinite. I cannot satisfy this need. I am the son of man and woman, so they tell me. That astounds me. I thought myself more. Moreover, what does it matter whence I come? If it had been up to me, I'd far rather have been the son of a female shark, whose hunger is the friend of tempest, and of the tiger, whose cruelty is well known. I would not be so wicked. You who look on me, keep your distance, for my breath exhales poisoned air. No one has yet seen the green fissures on my forehead, nor the bones protruding from my spare features, akin to the spiny fins of some huge fish, or to the rocks that cover the seashore, or to the steep alpine mountains I often scaled when I had hair of a different hue on my head. And well through thundery nights I rove about the dwellings of men, fiery-eyed, hair whipped by storm winds, alone like that of a stone in the middle of the road. I covered my branded face with a scrap of velvet black as the soot that clogs chimney flumes. No eyes must witness the ugliness which the Supreme Being with a smile of mighty spite has set upon me. Each morning when the sun rises for the others, spreading joy and wholesome warmth throughout all nature, none of my features stir as I stare fixedly at space, full of shadows. I'm crouched near the back of my beloved cave, and in despair as intoxicant as wine, and with my strong hands tear my breast to tatters. Yet I do not feel rage-stricken, nor do I feel that I alone suffer, but I do feel I am breathing. As a condemned man soon to mount the scaffold flexes his muscles, reflecting on their fate so upright upon my straw pallet, my eyes shut, I turn my neck slowly, right to left, left to right, for whole hours on end. I do not fall stone dead. From time to time, when my neck can no longer continue to turn in one direction and stops so as to resume its turning the opposite way, I glance suddenly at the horizon. Through the few chinks left in the thick brushwood that covers the cave's entrance, I see nothing. Nothing except for the fields and a whirling dance with the trees and long trails of birds traversing the air. That disturbs my blood and brain. So, who deals those blows on my head with an iron bar like the hammer hitting an anvil? This has been part 3 of Maldoror's first canto. We hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned next week for its continuation. Like, share, subscribe, and never be afraid to pursue the why.